Everybody, how's it going? Hope you had a great day, a great everything, a great month. The month just started, great quarter's almost over. But today, I want to talk to you about asset protection in a nutshell. Before I do that, though, I want to remind you, if you have any estate planning or probate needs or questions or queries or I don't know, anything, you just want to talk, go to cmslawfirm.com, set up a time to talk with us over the phone for free, cmslawfirm.com. All right, so asset protection in a nutshell, as always, these come from real life conversations that I'm having with real life people, and I figure if I'm talking about it with one person, there's probably a bunch of other people that want to talk about it too. And today I actually had two conversations with people. One conversation was with an attorney. Her name is Shreya. She's a great attorney, and they do asset protection like exclusively. They're pros. They do like offshore trusts. They like know how to do all the real deal. So if you are a bad boy or a bad girl and you need to hide your stuff, not hide, but just protect your stuff, then there are people out there that can help you do that. The second conversation I had was right after that, and that was with someone who had some concerns with some liabilities potentially, had some things that he wanted to protect specifically, and how to get those things. And I think out of that conversation comes sort of these other, sub conversations, places that you need to start before you get to where you need to go. And I wanted to talk about that real quick so that you could have a good understanding about where asset protection starts, where it ends, what you should be thinking about, when you might actually need asset protection, and just give you sort of the tools to help you understand what's going on here so that you can make good decisions, right? Because that's what this is all about. What's the point of making choices if you're making the wrong choice? So asset protection generally, what we're talking about is when referred to, so it covers two main things. Thing number one is sort of like the covering that scenario where something would happen to you, where you would do something where your liability would be high enough that it outstrips your insurance coverage and comes into your personal life. Okay, so the example that I usually give sometimes, let's say you owned a rental house, and you own that rental house in your name, so you owned it personally, and you rented the house to some people, and you knew that they were cooking meth, okay, and you were cool with it, and maybe you were taking a cut, I don't know, of the meth proceeds. These meth people, they're not great at what they do. They're only mediocre meth cooks, and I can't believe I'm using this example, by the way, but they're they're mediocre meth cooks. They're not great meth cooks. They're not very safety conscious. They don't know what they're doing, so they end up blowing up the house, and when they blow up the house, they die. They kill the family pet. The other two houses next door blow up. The whole block catches on fire. It's a crazy deal, and multiple people suffer very serious injuries, and then come to find that you were sort of the mastermind behind this whole thing, and you allowed that to happen. Okay, so in that case, because you are the owner of the house, because you're in the wonderful position of being responsible in some ways for these damages potentially, and even if you had insurance on the house, the insurance on the house is not going to cover something like that, so you are going to then be sued personally, and they could potentially get access to your bank accounts, to any other real estate that you own, basically to any other assets that you have. They could potentially get to those. Retirement accounts might be off limits or probably off limits, but that's about it, okay? So if you are doing that, you may want to try to protect your assets by doing some sort of planning. And there are many different things that you can do. Step one, for most people when it comes to planning on this continuum of asset protection, is just going to have adequate and or over adequate, that's not a word, but you know what I'm saying, insurance. That means having policies that are maxed out, that have the ultimate liability that you can get, like on a house, on a car, and then also having an umbrella policy, which sort of, like an umbrella, covers all of your assets up to an additional amount that you might be able to get. And you can get those umbrella policies for many, many different amounts. I always tell people, talk to your insurance provider. I don't broker insurance. I just talk you into getting more, okay? And by the way, there's an interesting, this is total total side note, I'm going to talk faster because I'm going to run out of time. But there's a interesting article I read a while ago about as humans, our ability to over-insure things that don't matter and under-insure things that really, really matter. We tend to under-insure our cars. I think we tend to under-insure our houses, and we tend to over-insure things like jewelry and things like that. So I'll try to find that. Maybe I'll share it here on my page because it's really interesting and does a really good job of outlining the type of insurance coverage that you should have and why you should have it. Okay? Really, basically, insurance is really built to cover those catastrophic things that can wipe you out. Full medical coverage, things like that. So I'll find that and share it because it's interesting. Okay, so insurance is step one. Step two is typically for people to create some sort of a business structure that cuts off liability. For example, with this rental house, if you put the rental house into an LLC, then typically that LLC is going to shield your personal assets from liability if something crazy happens at that house. Then you will have an additional level of asset protection, which is this trust sort of planning that I talked about. You have domestic asset protection trust. You have foreign asset protection trust. To be 100%. What's what I'm looking for? Clear? That's not the word I'm looking for. Just to 100% clarity. I don't often do a lot of this asset protection trust planning because it's very specific, particularly foreign stuff. That's why I mentioned my conversation earlier because, I like to have people that I can refer that stuff to when it comes in. And here's why. It doesn't come up that often because for most people, the amount of asset protection that you need is not that much. Typically, insurance is going to cover you to the extent that you could ever get into any trouble. And then if you have rental properties or other things like that, businesses that you own, business structures are going to provide the protection that you need to keep you out of any trouble, to keep you from getting wiped out financially, unless you're doing something crazy. So if you're a drug dealer, if you run an illegal gambling ring, something like that, if you're just a crazy person and you do crazy activities, you may want to think about some of that additional trust planning. Or if you just have a low tolerance, a low risk for adversity, you may want to do that. And that's okay too. What I always tell people is, I don't care what you do. I just want you to make informed decisions. If you decide after hearing this that you want maximum asset protection and that will help you sleep at night, that will make you feel comfortable, that will make you feel safe, then do that. That's fine. If you want none, if you want no asset protection, right? I just had a conversation with people that have no insurance basically, and they don't care. And that's okay too. Just knowing though what the benefits and the consequences of those choices are is what's important for me. So that is sort of asset protection in a nutshell. I glossed over some things in great detail that I could go into great detail on, but hopefully that gives you an idea of the different sort of levels that you can reach as you're thinking about asset protection. Revocable living trusts typically give you no asset protection when you create them because you have a lot of flexibility and control. When you die and the revocable trust becomes an irrevocable trust, then you have a lot of asset protection for the assets inside that trust because you can't change the trust, and typically the beneficiaries are not in charge. To just toss that in there, okay? All right, that's it. If you made it this far, good for you. Hopefully it made sense. Maybe you were entertained. Maybe you learned something. That's great. If you want to talk more about this, if you have questions, let me know. You can go to cmslawfirm.com. Set up a time to talk with us over the phone for free, cmslawfirm.com. Otherwise, thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. I appreciate you, and I will talk to you again soon.